you're going to become?
Welcome to the Louder Lawyer podcast. We got a special guest.
Yes, we do.
Gisela Acevedo.
Acevedo. Yeah, good enough. Good enough.
Gisela Acevedo, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you so much
me.
for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You are a family law attorney.
Yes.
And you've been practicing for 10 years?
In June.
In June. 10
10-year
years,
anniversary.
the big decade.
Yes, it goes by so fast. So fast.
That's awesome. How do you feel? How do you feel about 10 years?
I feel great. I feel like at the 10-year, well, I feel like I know what I'm doing, and it's just second nature. So
Yeah.
it feels good to finally be here, you know, when you're like a baby attorney. You're
Yeah.
just trying to figure things out, but it's been great.
That's awesome. So what do you think, like, what's the biggest change between now, like today, 10 years later, and in the beginning? Like, from then till now, like, what's the biggest difference?
I think for sure confidence and like knowledge, right? Where it's just like things that used to take me so long to do. Now it's like I do it really fast and I know what I'm doing and I know the exceptions to the exception. And the confidence, where it's just when you're a baby attorney, you're just questioning everything. Like, oh my God, did I say the right thing? Like the judge looked at me the wrong way. You know, you're just questioning everything. So I would say that's the biggest change.
What made you want to become an attorney?
I was always, you know, that little girl, the annoying little girl, was like questioning things. I remember going to like church with my parents, and it's just like, okay, so if God made the universe, who made God? Like, you know?
Always trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's like we were Catholic when we were kids, and it's like the priest would say, okay, like, and I would tell my mom, like, why do I have to tell the priest my secrets, like, or my sins? Why can't I just go directly to God, you know? Like, I was always that little girl questioning things, and, you know, my dad didn't speak fluent English, so I was always the one translating and kind of like looking into things for him, so I think it's just my nature.
Right.
And did you go to law school right out, like straight to law school from high school and undergrad and that jazz?
No. So after I went to UCSD, I took 2 years off. My dad was so mad. He was like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting your time. But it was the best decision.
What did you do in those 2 years?
I lived in, no. Well, I did. I
Travel?
partied. But I lived in Los Angeles, and I worked at law firms just to make sure, like, is this what I want to do? Like, what kind of stress level are these attorneys under? Is the debt going to be worth it? So
That's really smart, actually.
yeah. So I'm glad I took the break.
So like the jobs that you were taking during that period were kind of just like assistant, or like what kind of jobs would take you before you went into law school?
Oh my God, I was like literally from the bottom, and now we're here. Like I was the receptionist, the legal assistant. You know, I've done law clerk, and so finally as an attorney. So it was good. It was good.
Did you test out other areas? Like how many different areas of law before you landed on family?
Yeah, I did. I did civil. I did immigration, criminal, and just family is the one that I just kept coming back to. So.
Well, so tell us about your first year as your own firm. What was that like? What was that experience like?
It was so scary. I mean, I remember turning to my husband and saying, like, we're going to be poor for a year or two. Like, but it just was such a natural decision for me and my family. And thankfully, you know, it's worked out so great. Like, I'm so happy, and I have like control over how many clients I'm taking on. You know, for example, right now I have my clients on a wait list, well, like potential new clients, because I like to keep my client load small. Family law is very emotional. There's a lot of, you know, emergencies, and sometimes there really, really, truly are huge emergencies, and I need to be able to communicate with all my clients. When you have too much, nobody's happy, because you can't give yourself to everyone. So, but yeah, it was so scary, but I'm so glad I did it, for sure.
What's the max clients you can handle?
I think there's no magic number. I think it just depends on the clients, right? I have one case where it's like, for sure, 7 cases in one.
Wow.
Highly litigious. I talk to the client every day, even on weekends. And so it just depends on how, you know, what kind of cases. I have a surrogacy case where it's like, okay, we're, you know, in the process of filing paperwork. So it's not as litigated. It's more paperwork. So
Gotcha.
it just depends on the cases.
Do you need a big team for all that?
I guess the answer to that is not necessarily, but I've been so blessed to be able to expand. So when I first started, I was in my little office, like, doing everything, like billing and the TikToks and, and paying my own rent and picking up the paper and, the lawyering and stuff. And slowly, my husband's like the finance guy. He was just like, okay, like, I've done the calculations. We can afford to hire 1.5 people. And I'm like, okay.
Where do you get 1.5?
I'm like, what the heck does that mean?
That
like,
means he's a real finance
Yes.
guy because you ran the number, it came out 1.5.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, well,
he had charts and everything. I was like,
that
Sam,
means one person.
Yeah. I was like, Sam, I just want to know if I can hire the paralegal. He's like, yes. So now I have a paralegal. I actually have 2 paralegals and a law clerk. She just took the bar and we're hoping, as soon as she passes, she'll be my first associate.
Yeah.
So that has allowed me to expand as far as like how many cases I can take for sure.
Side note, what's the biggest difference between a paralegal and a law clerk?
So paralegal can go to school to be a paralegal, or the rules changed during COVID that if they've been in the legal field for 7 years, they have like a letter of recommendation, all these, elements that they have to meet, they can be classified as a paralegal. So it's a little bit of a higher step up from a legal assistant. Law clerk means you went to law school, you took the bar, and you're waiting to be an attorney. A paralegal isn't.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I thought
So that's like the stage in between. You passed the bar, but you haven't started yet, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you took the bar.
Right.
You don't know if you passed
it.
yet, but
Ah,
you're
okay.
a JD. You're a Juris Doctor.
Got it.
So
Interesting.
like I said, if she passes, which we're hoping, she'll be my first associate.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, we're hoping.
So tell me about like the type of cases that you do in family law. Is there a lot of is there a lot of I assume a lot of divorces?
Yes.
And a lot of nasty divorces.
yes. Unfortunately, for some reason, I mean, it's an array of cases, right? So it's like custody cases, people sharing kids, but they were never married. Divorces, they were married, they have kids or no kids. For some reason, like I've just become an expert in these cases where there's a restraining order and also divorce. So I've had so many of those cases that it's like a dual case, and there's like criminal, there's a criminal case, there's a restraining order in family court, and also divorce. So it's like all these operating like cases that kind of intertwine.
Right.
They're highly litigated, they're very expensive, very emotional, but for some reason they always fall in my lap. I think it's just because you do one and then they recommend you, and they kind of like, you start seeing a pattern.
So
Like,
you're
you're
the
you sound like-
toxica attorney.
The toxic guy? Yeah.
Well, not the toxic guy. I deal with toxicos or toxicas. Yeah. So those are really cool. I mean, they're so stressful, but I thrive in them. So.
So in a divorce case, how much difficult does it make it when there's kids? Does it make it a lot more difficult? Always.
So much more difficult. Like my little cousin's about to get married, and I remember being that age. She's like 20 something, and I'm just like, okay, get married, feel it out, but wait to have kids, please, because if like you divorce, it's like, okay, you go your way, I go my way. Do we have assets? Great. It's like, usually it's a mathematical formula, right? But with kids, you're in it forever. Like you're gonna duke it out forever. And it's so much more expensive and emotional and yeah.
So it almost makes sense. Like why even get married? Once you have kids, you're pretty much married already.
Yeah, my husband and I had that conversation. It's like, should we even get married? Like, should we make this legal? Like, and it came down to, for us, it was like health insurance, honestly.
Right.
I didn't have great health insurance, and he had amazing health insurance. So he did, the math.
Yeah.
The finance guy was like, okay, like it makes sense financially. But yeah, sometimes it really doesn't make sense to get married.
I hear a lot of different things, honestly. I hear things that are in favor to get married as far as financially and tax-wise, and then sometimes I hear the opposite. Like,
Right.
what's like, is it like always a different situation, or like, what's the truth?
Yeah, I think it just depends, right? Where it's just like some people are religious, so it's like getting married is like
Right.
important, crucial, like a must. Other than religion, yeah, I mean, it's like you have to. We did the analysis of taxes, where it's just like I have student loans still from law school at the time. You know, what does that mean for student loans? Am I going to pay less, more, the same? And rights too, right? So it's like as a spouse, you have more rights over just the girlfriend. You know, the girlfriend can't really come into the hospital room or make decisions on behalf of your partner
Power of
or
attorney.
boyfriend. You know, unless you have something like that, it's usually the parents. So let's say you have, you know, a significant other, you're not married, something happens to you, your mom or dad would typically be the one to step in because you're not married. So it just depends. Everyone, I think, has to make their own analysis, and it's important to some people, but I definitely questioned it
Yeah.
before we got married.
You know what I think about the annoying part about like co-parenting when you're not together
Tell us.
is probably
Please do.
it's like when you don't follow like the same set of values. You know, when you
Yeah.
believe in one way, which is my way, which is the right way, and then you have another belief, and then you're passing off the kid like ping pong, and
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't
I'm sure
believe
that's
in eating
horrible.
McDonald's, and then they're like feeding them McDonald's, kids getting
Right.
fat. And you're
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And then you have no say. Like I can see that being probably like one of the
Definitely.
biggest.
Yeah.
And there's
Complete
other
lifestyle-
examples, but I'm
lifestyle
not trying to get
differences.
canceled too soon.
No, I mean, I literally was just in a virtual hearing, and there was a whole hearing on like the kids being unhealthy and the dad wanting to take custody away from mom because she fed him fast food. And, you know, the doctors are saying these kids are, you know, morbidly obese. And the judge was angry. Like the judges are like looking at these parents like, can't you get it together? And the answer sometimes is no. So
That's child abuse.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could argue that, right? So it's like, for me, I think literally one of the most important decisions in your life is who are you going to have kids with? Because it's forever, right? It's just like my dad still worries about me. I'm 37, and it's not just until they turn 18. It's like, who's going to be at the wedding, who's not, and, you know, like decisions. Are they going to be religious or no, you know? So
What about getting married, like a religious marriage? You know, you
Just
get
the ceremony, no
just
legal.
the ceremony, no legal, but you got married, had the white dress and the party and all that stuff. Been living together for 15 years, 3 kids, all that jazz, and like that's considered a marriage, no? Or is it
Not legally, right?
Not legally.
non-legally, no. So, I mean, I have friends and like I know people who do that, where it's just like, we don't want the piece of paper and we don't want the legal responsibility of being married, but I want the party and I want to celebrate, you know, and celebrate our love, you know. So,
Right.
but with that, you know, comes other fields of law, right? So it's like you have to be careful, because then one partner can claim, oh, I thought we were legally married. Look, we had a wedding and I have pictures and I have a ring. And so then they duke it out on division of property. It's like, did you make it seem like you were legally married? Did this person really believe that? So
But don't you have to physically go to the courthouse? Like, how do you not know
Sign a
that?
paper.
yes, you know, but there's like the whole other side. You know, I do family law. There's a whole other side of civil where there's, you know, couples who were together for a very long time and either thought they were married or like they lived together so long and shared so much like properties, and, you know, that they fight for rights as if they were married. So
Isn't there certain actual laws though that state like when you like co-mingle or whatever the word is with somebody for a certain amount of time, and you do have kids, and you have like all the things you just stated, and you've bought property together? Doesn't that like, aren't there laws that say like because of these things that took place, now each party is owed a certain,
Civil marriage? Was it civil?
or they're like owed a certain amount of, you know, if something takes place? Like,
so I think a lot of people, I think this is what you're referring to,
Yeah.
is common law marriage, not in California.
Oh.
So
that's just
I
like down
think-
in the South and stuff.
yeah, in other states where I think it's like if you were together for 7 years, you're automatically classified
Got you.
as married or have the same rights, but not in California.
So I had a buddy, and he got married. He got finessed. I'm talking about straight finesse. Like I applaud this girl. I'm like, your finesse game is good. Man, she played the long game. So she was like, she didn't have 2 nickels to rub when they got together, and she finessed him. And so she like pressured him to get married, and they got married. So then he's a well-off guy, you know what I mean? And like they got married, then like they bought a house cash in Coronado, and then she was right there like during the signing, like pressured him to like put her name on, like, well, if we're married, I want to feel married, like put her name on the house, and then like pressured him to like adopt a kid, and he was like, I already got kids, they're already grown, I don't need any more kids. And then she's like, I want a kid. So they adopted a kid. Yeah. She played the 7-year finesse game, and then
we know whose side you're on.
It's in the book. It says 7-year finesse game.
and then boom, like she didn't talk to like teams of divorce attorneys before even hitting them up. Had her full legal 6-figure team set out, and then hit him with the divorce papers and got him for like
millions.
He had a prenup, but because of the other stuff that she did, she was still able to get like a good, I'm not gonna say the number, but she was able to get a good amount of money plus child support. Plus
so he had no idea there was anything going on, and she had already prepped all this legal stuff. Is what you're saying?
he was blindsided, bro.
Wow.
He's such a nice guy too. I feel bad for him.
So what state is that? What state?
San Diego.
Oh, here.
Yeah. So
in that type of situation, does that mean anything? Is there such thing as like malicious intent in a divorce?
Well, who do I represent? Your friend or the wife?
You represent the friend.
The friend. I guess it just depends on the facts, right?
I like this. We should play this game, bro. Create scenarios of like you represent.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what the prenup said. You know, it's like, was it a well-written prenup? Like, you know, for spousal support, that's the one thing I tell clients. It's like you can agree to anything in a prenup except, you know, about child custody, child support, and anything that has to do with like, you know, you have to have intimate relationships or intimate, you know, sexual interactions with me 5 times a week. Like you can't agree to that.
Okay,
no, you can't.
Okay.
So those are the 3 things you can't. And you can agree, like, I'm not going to pay you spousal support, but, you know, that's the one thing where it's like, it's legal to put in a prenup, but it might fail if the court thinks like, you were a millionaire, she's, you know, not, and she dedicated herself to the marriage, whatever. So spousal support's the one thing that is like iffy. Like you have to be careful who you're marrying. You can agree to waive spousal support, but you might end up still paying, you know, so. And also in that scenario, it just depends. Like, did she dedicate herself to the house and the kids? And, you know, like, right. If the prenup said nothing about division of property, like who got what, then, you know, it falls on the California laws.
What does a poorly written prenup look like?
I mean, you know, some of the things that you have to have is like, for example, the other side has an attorney. You know, I have some clients who are like, no, we're just going to do it. And it's like, no, you could do it. But if you get a divorce and the other person is like, I didn't have an attorney or it wasn't written in a language I understand, good luck, buddy. Like, it's going to be found invalid. So.
Interesting.
This is why I only date rich girls.
I mean, honestly, like, I tell my niece, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, like, you know, money doesn't matter. But to me, like, when you're going to marry someone, it does. Like, you know, it doesn't mean that they have to be rich, but it's like, are they fiscally responsible? Like, do they have debt? Like, you know.
What if I'm just good looking? It's not good enough anymore?
Do you have an OnlyFans?
If you're making money, you know. Yeah, so.
I guess if you're both in the same exact situation financially, like, it makes more sense. Like, okay, you're both not well off. You're both younger. It probably happens a lot when you're younger. Like, people get married younger, which comes with this whole other set of issues too. But like, if you're both not like in a situation where you're both well off and you're both figuring out life and you get married, it's like, it becomes less about that.
It just like to me, you know, it just marriage doesn't even really make sense to me because, you know, you have a flip of like you're probably know the stats more than I do, but I think like less than 50% of marriages last.
That's right.
And then the more divorces you go, like the less it goes. Like if you second marriage, it'll last like 30%. The fourth
Of the previous,
third marriage will last 20%.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's a lot of divorces for sure, especially since COVID. Like I've never worked harder and longer hours than when COVID hit, because so many people were getting a divorce. They were stuck at home together.
Right.
You know, so
They found out the truth.
yeah, I think so.
Even old people are getting divorced more now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that in court too, where it's just like married 40 years. It's like, okay, I'm done, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's more normalized. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I always like when I talk to a lot of people, and I hear like after like maybe like 4 or 5 years of being divorced, I always hear like, I made the wrong decision.
Really?
I always hear that. I always hear I made the wrong decision. It's just because they you don't know what you don't have, or you don't what you have until you don't have it, and then you realize, well, at least I had somebody there. They weren't like, you know, this image I had in my head, but they were consistent.
Do you think that comes from them not finding somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So if it's
they
like,
thought the grass was greener on the other side.
Right,
The grass
exactly.
is never greener on the other side.
right.
Well,
Well,
Unless you find me.
well,
I ain't getting married.
oh my gosh.
but you have to imagine if someone gets a divorce and then finds somebody else, then it's like they're not going to regret it. They're only going to regret it if they don't find nobody else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also depends on who messed up, right? It's like,
Right. Or
you
if they
mess
find
up?
somebody else and they end up being worse.
yes. Yeah, for sure. Those people, I just say, just don't get married again. Like,
Right.
you know, just stay, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see like from your perspective,
As far as what?
as far as like overall happiness after a divorce? Not talking about the toxicas and the toxicos, you know. Which I always find it, like the toxic relationships, they, you know what I'm saying? They always end up
They're fighting.
finding a way back at each
Ah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toxic attracts toxic.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
The best kind of relationship.
Yes, for real. I've had people who get divorced, get remarried, and then get divorced. I've seen that. But I think for sure, like from my experience in the last 10 years, people are a lot happier after divorce. And those are the best, you know, I post on my TikTok, or it's just some of the text messages that I get from past clients, you know, and they're like, oh my God, like, you know, we're at 5 years to the day that you handed me my divorce. And now, you know, I'm engaged and I'm buying a house, and like, you know, they find their soulmates. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it is so awesome. It's such a painful like process, but I just tell clients like it's gonna get better.
I have a. I mean, we've gone far away from law at this point. But I have,
But this is what she
Wait,
deals
wait.
with.
I have a personal theory.
Okay.
That I believe you only really have 7 years with each person. Like, and I don't believe in.
It's always 7.
I don't believe in long up to 7. I don't believe in long term. I believe it's very rare you get a really long term relationship. I believe you get 7 years with somebody until it's time to move on. Up to 7 years.
How did you come to this hypothesis?
Yeah, let's talk
or
about
this
it.
theory.
Just, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
How many 7-year relationships have you had?
You know what I'm saying? Well, just from what I've seen, like the majority of marriages end at 7 years. Most relationships end at 7 years. Is
that true?
I mean, I still have a lot of long-term marriages. You know, I don't. You know, I used to have this little notebook where I would ask the clients, like, "Are you okay if I ask you something? Like, what would you say like to people trying to get married?" You know, it's like I was trying to find like what's the secret, what's the formula, you know, and everyone just said something different, and a lot of it did come down to money, honestly, where it's just like I'm gonna work and you stay at home. And at some point down the line, they start resenting each other. It's like, you don't do anything, and this house is mine because I'm the one who brings in the money. But it's like, you guys had an agreement. Like, one of you was going to stay home. You know, education also, like, plays a huge issue. And kids.
Yeah.
You know, kids, like, having kids, it's so hard. And, you know, marriage is hard. And then let's throw in some kids in there, you know? Or some kids with special needs, right? Like, that's so hard. Or, you know, we're in San Diego, military. It's like military
People just getting married
families.
just to get married.
Well, I mean, a lot of them say they get married, you know,
for the venues.
for the benefits. They get, BAH and BAS, but the military is not friendly to families. Like it's like they're separated, and it's like most of them end up getting divorced, because the person in the military has PTSD or something, right?
Yeah.
And it's just
They're not the same anymore.
It's so hard.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and someone's stuck raising the kids on their own, while the other one is deployed, and that's hard.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
What if you never mind.
That's probably a good idea. So let's shift gears here. You had mentioned briefly, just in passing, when you were talking about your beginning stages of starting your firm, you had mentioned TikTok.
yeah,
Did TikTok exist 10 years ago?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Was that just like a generalized term, TikTok, as like social media or marketing?
No, TikTok didn't exist. And honestly, like for me, TikTok started with like COVID.
Right.
It's like at the time I was working at a firm, and like we were sent home, like work from home, and it was just kind of like so depressing.
Yeah.
And then I just started making TikToks on my personal thing, and I was known as a girl in the office, like, oh my God, you're always the one making TikToks. I would make everyone in the office make TikToks, but I'm like, okay, like this is just a waste of my time. It's just I have 3 followers, it's like, who's this for, But then like I started my own firm, and I was like, at first embarrassed, like, okay, like are people gonna look at me like, oh my God, you're the TikTok attorney, right? But it was amazing because it combined my 2 passions, where it's like I love making content and I love my job. And, I've seen other people on your podcast, like previously saying like they get most of their clients from TikTok, and I'm there.
Yeah.
Like we pay a marketing team, and my husband, of course, he's like, I don't know, this is not making sense because you get, 95% of my clients are from TikTok.
Right.
And it's like, amazing. Like I get like grandmas from Texas calling me and saying, my granddaughter is in San Diego. I need you to represent her. And then they fly down, just to meet me in court. And they're like, oh my God, I only see you in videos.
That's
and
amazing.
It's like, so it's like, my husband and I were just like mind blown, like of the power of TikTok. And it's like free marketing. Like I take a couple minutes. I'm more of the organic. Like I don't really, sometimes I, stage things, but like however it comes out, it comes out. And I think that's why people like it, where it's just like you're real, So it's honestly been like the coolest part of my career and living in this time, like where it's like, wow, like I get to do like social media, and it also brings in money
That's amazing.
and clients and from all over the place, with COVID, after COVID, a lot of the hearings are virtual. So now I get to do hearings in LA, and I've had clients from like, the Bay Area and like all these other areas that I would have never touched before.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
So was social media one of the ways that you got your first clients, or how did you get your first set of clients when you started your firm?
So social media now is 95% of my clients. When I first started, it was 2 clients that followed me from my last job.
Oh, okay.
And then a lot of referrals. Like when you go solo, meaning like when you leave a bigger firm or you're working for somebody, people are so nice. Like they're just like, okay, you're starting your own firm. Okay, all family law issues, I'm gonna refer to you.
Yeah.
And so like my neighbors and like all my friends. So that's how slowly. It's like if you have a buddy, it's like, hey, this attorney, you're just to be like, done. Where do I sign? So referrals were like the next big, source of clients. And then, slowly TikTok. I don't even have that many followers, honestly. It's like almost at 6,000, but it got to a point where I could not keep up with the
It's because you have the right followers.
I think
You
so.
have the right followers. Imagine 6,000 people that wanted to work with you, right?
Yeah. So it's just been so cool.
So we talk about that a lot.
Yeah, we talk like you're really ahead of the game because so many attorneys, their egos are high. So they're like, oh, stupid TikTok kid platform, whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't realize like what was advertising back in the day? Was it yellow pages, billboards, buses, TV, radio. And but where's attention now? You listen to Spotify, but everyone's on their phone. Billions of people on their phone every single day. and they're just consuming content. So
Right.
they're not really watching TV like they were, you know what I mean? So why are you spending tens of thousands of dollars
Right.
on billboards,
Right.
at buses and all that stuff, when you could be putting your effort on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and be getting 95% of your clients that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I'm just so mind blown still. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I was saying, it got to a point that I couldn't keep up with the consults. Like, I was having 11, 12 a week, and I wasn't getting to my work.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how do I keep up? Like, you know, so, but obviously it was a blessing because as we
course.
started the story, you know, I told my husband, we're going to be poor. Like, you know, I'm always going to get my nails done. I'm not giving that up. But, you know, we're going to be poor. And it was far from the truth. Like, I, you know, was so blessed to I think I made more in 6 months than I made for 1 year at my last job. And
Amazing.
TikTok.
Wow.
Like, that's
What was
where
the
it must have-
video that blew you up?
I think it was, I think I started with like, I already know this is going to be controversial, you know?
Nice.
And I think that one blew up because I'm talking about,
I know.
oh, really? You
Posted
started
about
it off like that?
creating controversial hooks.
Yeah. So I'm
You
like, I
literally
already know
said
this
it
is going to be
controversial.
controversial. So I think it was a video about like when parents that are paying child support, they're like, oh, I want receipts, you know, of what you're buying, or like, you know, why are you buying Botox, or, you know, why are you paying your rent with my child support? Like, if you can't pay your rent, then I should have the kids. And just kind of like the policy behind that, right? Where it's just like, okay, I get it. Like, it's like you see your baby mama or baby daddy, right, getting tattoos or lip fillers. But if you look at it in the perspective of child support is reimbursement for what the other parent has provided, then it changes the narrative, right? So it's
Right.
like you're reimbursing. Like, who do you think fed your kids, and where do you think they lived?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like your $200 didn't cover the mortgage, and you know, so like I said, it depends on who I represent. Where it's just like I kind of
Well, I'm a big believer in like if I have kids, like my goal to make tons of money, which is my goal, to make multiple 7 figures, is when I have kids, you know, like I said, I don't expect, I would ideally like to be with this person for a long time. But
at least 7 years.
Right?
or even longer.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do know there's that 7-year turnover rate. And so anyways, but my philosophy is if you buried my kids, no matter if we're together or not, you know, no matter what you're doing, you know, like I'm gonna take care of you.
Mhm.
You know, ideally I like to like pay for your apartment, pay for the kids, pay for
Right.
whatever you need. Because at the end of the day, I want my kids to be good.
Yeah, because it's not about like, you know.
A lot of
the
people
other-
ain't rich though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it. You know, and it that's a great philosophy to have and like a perspective. But what happens is, like you said, some people don't have money, and they get their checks and they have multiple kids, and then it's like their check is like
Gone.
$250 for the week, $250. You know.
But I also have seen where it's kind of blunt, like where the guy is like, and I seen this. One of my guys who I used to live in these apartments. Underneath was this real estate office, and the guy owned the office. He was very successful, and I noticed he was living in his office. And after like 3 years of seeing him live in his office and living in his van, I was like, "Yo, dude, like, what is the story, man? It's been 3 years. You're still living in your van, your office." He's like, "Man, I got divorced. My wife took everything. She takes so much in child support. Like I can't, like so much in alimony. I have to pay her so much money. I can't afford an apartment. I have to live in my van in my office." And I think about that. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Do situations like that happen a lot? Like, can something change if that's the case? Like, because of the alimony, it's draining one side, and then they can't even like operate and live.
I mean, you
because of
could
it?
absolutely make that argument. It just
Yeah.
depends on the facts. You know, it's
Right.
like if the the ex is like hiking and not working and like on vacation all the time, and you're like barely scraping by,
Right.
and now you're married to a new person or you had a kid, like you can ask for a reduction. So the answer is yeah, it depends on the facts, but it has
Right.
happened. So, I mean, and the other thing I was going to say is like, too, it's like child support, you know, becomes an issue when you get with another person, right, Mary? And they're like, oh, like I remember I saw an interview or like a story about J-Lo being so mad that A-Rod was still playing spousal support. I was like, she should be working, you know, and that's when it becomes tense, right? It's like you might have like the best heart, but then now you have your partner, your soulmate. You know, well, maybe they're not your soulmate if they're like telling you shouldn't support your kids. But anyway, that's besides the point. So
That's a TikTok right there.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Let's talk about soulmates here.
yeah. So
That's funny.
That's cool.
So how much time do you set aside to create this content?
you know what? It's at first it was fun. I would just make it, you know, whenever, like in the car, or like I'm gonna stop for groceries, but I'll do a video, or I'm in the parking lot. And then it kind of became stressful, to be honest, because I was like, oh my God, like I see all these algorithms and you have to
Gotta make a
post that.
video.
Yeah. And I was just, my husband was like, take a step back. Like, it's not fun anymore. Like, that's the point of this. Like, it has to be stress-free. And if it's not fun, it's not going to be genuine. Like, you know, and I'm very, very, like, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. People, you know, it's like one thing I've had to work on, because in court I'm like, you know, it's just like, you know, like I'm just like, how I feel is what you get,
shows,
you know?
yeah.
So I just kind of took a step back and I was like, I'll just make it when I feel like it. If I have the time, you know, and usually it's like I just get inspiration in like a matter of minutes and then I just pick up my phone.
Right.
It's like we're driving to my in-laws. Oh, you know what? I'm going to talk about, you know, this.
Yeah.
So
Have you run any social media ads?
no, we're in the process. I think my husband's working on like Google ads or something.
What about social media ads, Instagram ads?
No, I haven't. We haven't looked into that yet.
So when you were creating, I guess, more consistently, and then it kind of took a dip because it wasn't fun, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't make as much. Did you see a dip in like business, in the consults, or how did that affect it?
You know what? Now I'm at a point where it's like, even if I don't make content for a week, I'm still getting so many calls. Like, I saw you on TikTok. Well, some of them are embarrassed to say, you know, but I'm like, hey, where did
find
you?
me?
Yeah, because it's important, you know, to
know.
know. And they're like, it's embarrassing, but TikTok. I'm like, oh no, it's not embarrassing. It's great.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point in time, I think it's like, even if I stop making for a week, I think I would still, I just got off the phone with someone. And I was like, oh, I'm at my capacity. And they're like, please take my case. Like, please, like, I'll give you double the retainer. And my paralegal was like, I feel bad. Like, and I'm like, okay, let me think about it. You know? But it's great. It's a great problem to have.
So I know that you're soon, hopefully, gonna have an associate. Do you see, like, I guess the question would be, do you see yourself growing to like having multiple associates and then eventually partners in the firm, or like what do you see for the future of your firm?
Yeah, it's like a question that has come up. You know, at first I was like, maybe it's okay to just be me, you know? But honestly, everything has just happened so organically, which is kind of like, funny enough, everything in my life has kind of happened that way, you know, where it's like, this seems like the scariest moment of my life. And then it turns out to be like the best. Yeah. You know, like scary, but like the best decision for me or for my family. Right? It's like, manifest it. So yeah, like I had a very small office, and then March 1st, I moved into an office 3 times the size. It just organically happened. Where and my husband's like, no, you need more help. And I was like, can we afford it? He's like, yeah, I already did the calculations, you know, and next is like, you know, I'm probably going to hire like a personal assistant, office manager, because when you're running your own business, like returning FedEx, you know, packages, like if I'm billing close to $500 an hour, but I'm at FedEx in line for an hour, like I'm losing money at that point, right? So I think I got really good advice from my friend who's at a PI firm. He said, fire fast, hire slow. Someone doesn't work out, fire them immediately, because it's, you know, it's not worth your time. You'll know as a business owner if it's working. Hire slow. Like, don't be in a rush to expand, because, you know, for me, like there's attorneys here, you know, in general, where it's just like, I just want to grow. And that's their main objective. My main objective, I care about my reputation.
Right.
you know. So if I grow too fast, I think
And you
it
kinda
takes
have
the
this-
quality away.
You have this person now that you're almost like hiring from within, right? Like,
Right.
So it's like they already know the culture of your business. They know you. They know how you operate.
Yeah.
And so bringing them on, they're gonna be the closest to like being like how you work essentially.
Yeah,
Right.
and I try to tell her no pressure, you know, because she like, you know, it's like you don't have to stay, but you know, so
Right.
far we're vibing, it's great, and that's
Yeah.
important because you spend more time at work than at home.
Yeah.
Like I used to see my coworkers more than my husband.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important to have people that like vibe with you and like understand. Like I'm not mad at you, I'm just stressed out. You know.
Yeah.
So
The only reason I asked was because, you know, you had that one person that called you and you're like, please take my case, you know,
Yes.
and like you want to be able to, do you feel like you feel bad turning them away? Like you want to be able to, so if you had
Right.
more help, you could be like, well, boom.
Yes,
You know?
exactly. That's my goal. Where
Yeah.
it's like, you know, working as a team. You know, it's just like, okay, like if I have her helping me with X, Y, and Z, then I have more time to go to court with you or whatever.
Yeah.
So
So you're taking resumes? I got.
yeah.
What was your biggest TikTok?
The
The biggest, the one that got the most engagement.
man, there's.
got
I
the-
think
I
they're
got the
like
3 pinned ones right here.
Yeah, they're pinned.
Should we watch them?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Just don't copyright us.
So I already know this one's going to be a controversial
Yeah.
topic. So often, when a person is ordered to pay child support, I have heard them ask the judge if they can ask for the other parent to provide them receipts or proof that the money that they are giving for child support is actually being used for the child. Can you guess what the judge's response is every single time that question is asked? No, absolutely not. The reason that question is usually followed with a no is because child support is not just for items for the child directly. It's for rent, electricity, groceries, gas to get to work, to make your car payment so that you can get to work. Child support is to be
Okay, here we go.
any way possible or needed for the child.
I thought
So
they
I
did.
already
I
know
thought
this
they
one's
passed a
gonna be
law
a
though, that
controversy.
said that you do have to show receipts now.
I'm not aware. Not in California. Maybe in another state, but not here.
But that makes perfect sense because that's like living expense, like
Right.
everyday living expenses. But like when you mentioned before, you're like if they're going on vacations and
Yeah,
they're buying
Louis
Louis
Vuitton.
bags and they're doing this, that, and the third, you know, like that's different.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
there's a law that you have to provide receipts for like medical expenses, that too, and then childcare, right? Because that's in addition to the monthly amount, and that's why people end up living in their office. You know, it's like you have
Yeah.
to pay child support, and then on top of that, half of any childcare and half of any medical expenses not covered by insurance.
Spousal support.
And spousal support would be in addition if you were married, and you know there's certain
And
factors that
I
are
had
met.
I had another successful friend who got hit with that spousal support. Put him in the gutter as well. And the girl, she had like a boyfriend, like pretty much a husband.
Yeah.
But like they would never get married because then the money wouldn't come in anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could ask for a reduction, you know, if they're like living together and they're splitting
Oh, no, but
expenses.
they can't like just like when the investigator comes.
Yeah. They're smart. Yeah, I wouldn't get married either. Yeah. I know. It's so hard.
Dang.
Yeah.
It goes down a slide out the window.
Yeah, I've had clients in court where it's like, she's living with her boyfriend, and the court's like, I'm sorry, sir. And he, like, I remember he was like, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay. And I was like, you can't tell the judge that. He's like, I'm not going to pay. Like,
Dang.
got up and left.
So what if there's a situation where you're in a situation like, you know, I'm not paying, I'm not dealing with this. Is there a way to be like, you know what, I just disowned the whole family and I don't want to pay no more and let her figure it all out?
Or do you go to jail?
You could file a contempt. I mean, it's like semi-criminal. Can you abandon the family? I mean, it really doesn't really work that way. It's more of like you can, like what I tell some of my clients were like, I don't want to be paying them monthly, which usually makes sense for the person who's paying monthly as opposed to a lump sum, right? If I have the client who's being paid the monthly support, then a lump sum makes sense because it's guaranteed versus like, what if the person dies in a year? There goes your money, you know? But there's so many ways to negotiate where it's just like, look, I'll give you $50,000, no spousal support, you relinquish it forever.
Huh.
but here's a lump sum. And some people are like, okay,
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah, you can negotiate anything. So, or like
I
no
guess so,
spousal
yeah.
support, but you keep the house, it's paid in full,
Right.
you know? So there's ways.
Interesting.
Damn, these are TikToks right here.
I know.
Oh yeah, I'm writing down my ideas.
Right?
Yeah.
We got a lot of clips.
We're
from
pretty
this.
much the comment section right now.
Yeah.
Literally.
Man, that's amazing that you like figured out like you got on TikTok and you're able. It didn't take you 2 years. It took you 6 months, and now you're so busy and you're so successful. Got
Thank
a beautiful
you.
office
Yeah.
in Bankers Hill.
Yeah.
And you're growing at the pace that it's organic to you, and you're just you're manifesting and everything. And
Yeah.
really letting things come naturally. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what my niece says. Like, girl, you manifested this, girl. You know, and I'm just like, okay, but it's
You got the manifestation pose.
yes. Yeah, and it's so funny because now, like, I'm looking at other firms and like people are slowly picking up. Like, they're making TikTok accounts that they didn't before. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
like people are catching on that this is where it's at now. You know,
Yeah.
so
We try to game up some of these attorneys. You know, we try to teach them. We're like, we break it down for them. But if you don't see it, you just don't. And in my head, I'm just like, look, if you don't see it, you're gonna be left behind. You know
Yeah.
who does see it? The person who just passed the bar, and they already
young
ha-
attorneys.
These young attorneys, and they're not.
Yeah.
And they don't have the 10, 15, 20 years of experience that you have, but yet they're taking your business, and while you're talking smack about them because you're more experienced and you think you're the greatest attorney in the world, but they don't know who you are.
right.
They don't know who you are. You got all these settlements. You made all this money 10 years ago.
Right.
But what about today? What worked yesterday doesn't work today. And what
Right.
got you to where you're at today won't get you to where you need to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope I'm not one of those, you know, in like 20 years that I'm like, no, sticking to my ways, you know? I hope.
I'm staying on TikTok forever.
I know. It's like, it's over, Gisela. It's over.
It's over.
Yeah, it's just been great. I had a client, you know, the one who was like, take my case, please. And she was telling my paralegal, it's like, no, I see her on TikTok. Like, and she's Latina, and she's like, I just have a feeling from her videos, like she's the one, you know. And I'm just like, that's the face-to-face interaction, or like you kind of start learning about people's personalities. Obviously, sometimes social media is fake, but that you get people to like feel like they know you, right? So I think that
Exactly.
that's the great part of social media, that you are able to give that to people before they even meet you, before they give you a dime, you know. So
That's the biggest differentiator. You can't get to know somebody by seeing their picture on the billboard. You can't
Yeah.
get to know somebody from a link on
Right.
Google, you know, and that's why people they're literally passionate to want to work with you.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think my TikTok clients are like some of the best clients I've had. Like they pay on time, and
Yeah.
they're just like, okay, like, you know, and they're usually the clients that are like, I trust you, do whatever, you know. And it's like funny because I've found that clients from my other marketing, you know, it's like they're not as good of a client. Like they're, you know, either like pickier or, you know, more like, oh, like, why was I charged $5 for this? That's like, okay, this is not going to work out.
Right.
You're
They
not
haven't,
doing
like-
what I'm saying.
yeah.
You're questioning $5. Like, you know, you're picky. Like, it's like when you hire someone, you have to trust. Like, I'm the expert. Like, you know, if I come to you on podcasts, like, I'm going to do what you say because you're the expert. I'm not. And I'm paying you. So it's like, you know, so yeah.
For the record, she's not
She's not paying us.
Oh,
I was like, wait, she paid you? No.
no. He's like, when?
But
Call Mark right now. Like,
But
you charge her?
that's a dope insight that you just said though. Like it helps attract your ideal client. You know, like because of the content that you're putting out and you're putting out your persona and your personality, the people that relate to your personality are gonna be attracted to you. Therefore, you're attracting your ideal
Yeah,
client.
and it's not even the ideal client too, because Sam, you know, my husband, he's a smart man. That's why I married him. He's like, and I was like, I just don't know where to go with these videos, and like, he's like, whatever you're doing is working, just do it. And who's your target audience? I don't know. Well, tell me who's hired. And I was like, well, this guy came in that his wife saw me, and it's like, okay. And then this other guy came in and said that the sister. So I'm like, okay, so it's not just my target audience hasn't been the actual client.
It's
a
like,
lot of the times it's like the older
once
sister,
removed, yeah.
the,
And the grandma,
wife
yeah.
of the truck driver who doesn't have time to look
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
And it's like, I have a little brother. If I said, hey, this is the person you go with,
Right.
he's like, all right, here, take my money.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wow.
yeah,
Like
you get
this,
that direct referral.
Yes.
From someone that's like, it may not be we talk about that too. It may
Well,
not be that person, and
yeah.
it's a person that person knows.
Well, the grandma in
Yeah.
Texas. I'm like looking at the phone, like she's calling from Texas. I was like,
Yeah.
ma'am, I don't do cases in Texas. I was like, no. She was like, no, it's my granddaughter. She's in San Diego.
Wow.
And it's like, that's the missing link, right? Where it's just like with the yellow pages or blogs, even. It's
Well,
you don't really get that.
It's what really sets you apart from 1,000 attorneys in the same town, right?
Right.
And that it's your personality, it's your story,
Right.
You know, and you can only show that through
Authenticity.
authenticity, whatever.
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
There you go.
And you're showing your personality. You're not stale. Like you see some of these attorneys, and they're just like, "I am J Pro from Louder Media Law Firm, and I help this type of client. And if you're facing a divorce, then come call my office with the corniest corporate music in the background."
Right.
And it's like, instead of just being like, this
hey,
might be controversial,
you know.
but she don't gotta show you no damn motherfucking receipt.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, I've told my husband, I was like, hey, I'm questioning, like, I've seen some firms, they're like hiring like professionals and they're like super scripted. And he was like, no, like, stick to what you're doing. Like, people want to know who you are, It's like, I'm a little ghetto sometimes, It's like, I have my angry side, but I also know how to keep
That's
it
the
cool.
Salvadorian.
Yep, that's the Salvadorian side of me. So, yeah, it's like, it's just funny because you question yourself. Like, it's still a new realm for me, right? Where it's like, how do I say it or what do I do? And as an attorney, you're already super guarded, and you're just like, I have to be proper and like, but it's like TikTok is a little freeing in that way, where it's just like, people like me for who I am. I'm just gonna keep doing it.
They want you to be authentic.
Right.
Right.
Authentic.
Yeah.
And also, like, the reason why, like, it does a good job of promoting your content to the right audience. It'll find your target audience for you. That's
Right.
what the algorithm does.
Right.
Right, exactly. So it's like if you have people who are gonna, mind you being on social media, it's like they're gonna be like, skip,
Right.
or it's like people, if for example, one of the controversial topics that I talk about, surrogacy, some people are like, oh, that's against, whatever, like ethics. And it's like, okay, well then I know that's not, it's a client I'm not gonna have.
Right.
Great, perfect. It, like,
don't want
kind of, right. So,
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, and there is a fear of, is if I'm on TikTok, are people gonna take me serious?
oh, for sure.
And if anything, they take you more serious. They trust you even more than just if you have a website and an about me and all
Right.
your stats and everything. That
It's because they realize that, like, oh, this person's being vulnerable and they're letting us in. Like, you trust a person who lets you in than someone who's guarded more so, and just naturally in life.
Yeah.
Like, if someone's always guarded, you don't know a lot about them, you're like, would you trust that guy? I'm like, I don't know nothing about him.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
But the person that's being vulnerable with you and, telling you things and allowing you to be, authentic, you trust
Right.
that person more.
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
What kind of advice would you give your little brother if he wanted to get married?
Oh, he's married.
What kind of advice did you give him?
I guess maybe we could talk about like my niece. She hasn't gotten married. I always just tell her, like, look, who you marry is important. If it doesn't work out, you divorce. No big deal. Like, it's done. Like, it will be a heartache, but but money and education matters. Like, you don't want to be the higher earning party or, with someone who's always going to be broke. Unless you're in it, great. If this is the person you love, great. But you have to be ready for the struggle that comes with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone is rich. Not everyone's educated. And there's still amazing people.
Why is education so important?
Education is important because, besides the TikTok influencers who are making money, but I
The camera. Go ahead.
Stop blocking the camera. Go ahead. Go off, queen.
I feel like education is linked to like how much you make, right? And it's like, or you have partners who, like, one's done with their education, the other one decides they want to go to college while you're raising kids. And it's
Right.
like, that becomes a problem too, right? It's like, what do you mean? I finished my education. You're going to leave me the kids. Now you're going to go to college. Like, you have to just think about all these things, which is hard when you're young. How do you know what to think about?
Right.
You know?
Is the saying, with no finance, there ain't no romance? Is it true?
I mean, I don't want to get canceled or anything. I mean, I just think that you have to be on the same playing field when it comes to finances, right? Where it's just like, not everyone is rich or makes a lot of money, but do you have the same financial goals? Like, are you a spender and the other one's like killing themselves at work while you're just like spend, and getting each other into debt, right? So I think it's definitely an important topic that you should talk about before you get married.
So what are the top 3 things to talk to each other about before marriage?
Well, I can tell you what I discussed with my husband. I mean, I remember we were in Europe. We were traveling in Europe. We had kind of just met, and we were in Italy. And I was just like, man, like, I think this is the person I'm going to marry. Like, I just had that feeling, you know. And as a divorce attorney, to me, that was huge. I was like, oh, my God, I can't see myself without this person. And I grilled him, like, hours. And he answered everything. And part of that was like, do you owe taxes? Like, do you have other children out there? Do you owe child support? Like, you know, have you ever gone bankrupt? You know, and it was like my confession. At the time, I was like, oh my God, I have something to tell you. And he's like, what? Like, oh my God, I was like, I have student debt, you know?
And he's like, okay.
And he's like, that's it? Because he has none, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it was important, like, make an informed decision. What are you stepping into? Like, I owe, you know, whatever it was at the time, $300,000. You have zero. That's yeah. I'm at the stage in my career that
That's that law school debt.
that was
Mine was like $20K.
oh man. I'm at the stage in my career though where I could say, man, it was worth it,
Yeah,
right? Like the financial freedom I have now, and you know, that's for another day.
Right.
But yeah, just I think finances, you know, like how many kids are you gonna have? Do you want kids? Right.
This
So
is on
it's
date number 2 in Italy, by the way. In Italy, by the way, date number 2.
No.
They're sitting in front of the Coliseum like, all right, how much debt you got?
You have the notebook, you know,
Yeah.
application question.
But check, you know. Yeah. So I think you know, kids, finances, and I don't know. I mean,
Goals in life, maybe?
goals in life.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's just like, and like, where do you want to live too? Because that like changes a lot, especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I think kids, from the financial standpoint, kids make such a huge difference, because if you don't have kids, and it's like I feel like the financial thing doesn't affect you as much, because you can both operate in your own lives, right? Like this is your life that you're doing, this is my life that I do. We both came into it, but then as soon as something dramatically changes, like kids get introduced into the mix, then it's all of a sudden becomes about supporting the kids, right? And then if all of a sudden it becomes really uneven, right? And then one person's supporting the kids way more than the other, and it's causing financial distress for one party, and then it's like that's where things can get really
for
complicated.
Sure. Oh, I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Freaking kids, man! I'm telling you. Man.
Do you have kids?
I got 3.
You got 3? Oh my God, you look so young.
Thank you.
How old are they?
How old are they? I thought you were gonna ask how old I was.
No.
Trying to age you,
I know,
bro.
right? No, they're young. 3, 2, and 5 months.
Oh my God, congrats. They're awesome, but so hard.
Do you have any?
One.
1.
He's almost 2,
Yeah.
and I think we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband wanted 4 when we first started dating. I wanted 0, and the compromise
Was
is
1.
the 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
1 is easy.
I'm at that stage where
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, why do people have more than 1? This is horrible. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm there where I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute.
Yeah.
I kind of want a second one, but no, we're done.
Well,
So-
if you do have a second one, I recommend a 3-year gap.
Okay.
And the reason is because, well, how old is he?
2. He's going to be 2.
Yeah, so you'll be fine.
So 1 more year.
But they just when you do it too close, even though they say it's better later, they like resent the younger one because they're like the baby. You know, and then but between my oldest and my youngest, he like adores the youngest.
Oh,
Right, because he's old enough to like understand it and take care of her and help with things, and you know, like he's like, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby?"
Oh, I love it. That's so cute.
And then like Raja, the middle one, he's like, "Psh," and walks by, "Where's my baby?" Like,
yeah, I've heard that from multiple people actually. Do you have kids?
not yet.
Next question.
Yeah, so kids are great, but they're hard.
Yeah.
They just made a TikTok, or not a TikTok yet, but a video with your kids today.
Oh my god.
Oh my God, I'm
It's
gonna
really
see
funny.
it.
It's
Yeah,
really
you gotta
funny.
you gotta
I'll show it to you
gotta
after.
show it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a fun conversation. We get to
Yeah.
like all over the place. You
We
know
just
what
hit the
I mean?
1 hour mark right now.
Hit the 1 hour.
Yeah, it was by
mark.
fast, right?
Oh, it went by so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, for
It
sure.
was fun. How was it? This was your first live podcast.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was easier than I thought.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just it's fun. It's fun when you talk about what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I get told like your eyes light up when you talk about family law, and that's another thing that people have told me, like through your videos I can tell.
Yeah.
You know, the way you talk about something, like it matters. You
Right.
know, so yeah, I love what I do. So it was great. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you for coming on.
Tell the people where they can find you. Let them know your TikTok, your website, all that stuff.
Yeah, and my TikTok is Acevedo Family Law, one word. And I have an Instagram, Acevedo Family Law on Instagram. Hopefully TikTok doesn't get banned.
Yeah.
But if it does, you can follow me on Instagram. And I have a website where I post blogs, a little bit more extensive on like, you know, things that I don't think people care to hear about, or it's like more in depth on certain issues. So usually I try to match my blogs with my videos. So it's like the theme of the week is domestic violence.
Are you
You know?
doing any YouTube videos?
No.
Turn those blogs into YouTube videos.
Okay.
And also
Good SEO.
you can template them to be engaging, sort of like your TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
it
heard that
flows.
that's coming back.
Oh, it never went anywhere.
You think?
That's
It
the
never
thing.
went anywhere.
It's just other things got popular, so it kind of like since YouTube's been around for so long,
Yeah.
but it's still like
YouTube is king.
equally as powerful as it ever was.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good tips.
Yeah.
The fastest to grow is on TikTok. YouTube is king. And to Instagram. Instagram is like where it's at, but it's the hardest
Yeah.
to
Hardest
it's
to
the
grow.
hardest to grow on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my followers are like very minimal compared to TikTok.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I
But
don't-
it's
I
still
don't-
very powerful. It's just harder to grow.
Yeah.
More of a pay to play.
I've been contemplating Facebook, but I'm like, I can't run another social media. I don't think, you know, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
You can tie Instagram and Facebook together.
And that's
Make
why
it
you guys are
easier.
the experts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Even run some ads, even boost it a little bit more. Get
Right.
further there's so many strategies. You can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But the best strategy is the one you've been doing.
Yep.
Okay.
It is.
Awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
good to hear, because I definitely have doubts sometimes, but
No,
that's
you-
reassuring.
You're killing it. And I love
Yeah.
your playfulness with it, and when it's fun. Like if you really want to go, like the person who enjoys walking will go past their goal, versus the person. Well, once
Right.
they reach their goal, they'll continue walking. Versus the person who just wants to get to their goal will only walk to that point and stop walking. So when you enjoy the process, you'll always do it, and it'll be more fun and feel way more relaxed and less stressful than
Yeah.
having to do something because you have to do it.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I felt. That was deep, man. That was a great way to end this. That was like,
And we're out.
Until next time.
bye.